Good morning, folks. It is Thursday, September the 1st. It is 8 o'clock here in San Diego, and for whatever reason, all of the currencies in the basket of currencies which make up the US dollar index decided that today was the day to head lower. And so the strength that we're seeing in the US dollar is based on weakness in the currencies within the basket. And so, if you see anybody saying that, the dollar is fundamentally weak and it's about to roll over, and ain't going to happen, in my opinion, because yes, the US dollar is fundamentally weak, but it's still the strongest currency on the planet. Well, you might argue that the ruble is actually stronger at this point, but we won't go there today. So anyway, we're going to look at all of the currencies in the basket. And of course, these are the contents of the basket. Notice that the first three currencies, that's about 83% of the basket. And understand that when these currencies are weak, when the currencies in the basket are weak, the dollar has no option other than to be strong. I'll explain a little bit more. So currencies don't trade in a vacuum. So when we're talking about the euro within the dollar, what we're really talking about is the euro relative to the dollar and the yen relative to the dollar. So think of a teeter-totter. If one side's heavy, the other, one side's low, the other side's going to be high. And so when the euro goes low, the dollar goes high. The yen goes low, the dollar goes high. And so anyway, what we're going to see in the charts today is that all of the currencies decided that today was the day to drop lower. And we're seeing the result in the dollar basket. So anyway, I'll stop rambling. Let's jump to the charts. So here we've got the dollar in the monthly time frame. So notice that we've started a new candle, and this month's candle is pushing out above the upper side of this horizontal support resistance zone. So again, all of the U.S. dollar heading higher because everything else is headed lower. Here in the weekly time frame, we can see that this week's candle is now pushing decisively up above this resistance level, both resistance from this prior high and resistance from, this is the second median line extension of this Andrews pitchfork. So today we've got the dollar pushing up through both of those levels of resistance and doing so decisively. That's not just a little poke, stick my head above and see what happens. That's a decisive poke. MACD in bull mode on a buy signal, momentum accelerating to the upside is what I would suggest is happening. Energy very elevated and heading higher. Let's drop to the daily time frame, and here again, so we've got the dollar pushing decisively above both this horizontal support resistance zone. Actually, it's just a resistance zone. We never tested it as support, but pushing decisively above that zone and then pushing through the median line of this modified shift pitchfork. MACD in bull mode on a buy signal, and notice that MACD no longer looks like it's rolling over. It's actually heading higher today. We can see that as well in the histogram, where the coloring has changed from light green to dark green. That's an indication that momentum is accelerating to the upside. Energy was already elevated and it's heading higher today. So we'll look at the euro. And of course, we're looking at the currencies in the order that they show up in the basket. So euro is almost 60% of what's in the basket. Here we are in the monthly time frame. We can see that this month's candle has opened at the low of last month's, or not the low, but the close of last month's candle, and is heading lower today. MACD in bear mode on a sell signal, energy very low. So no expectation that we get a bounce in the euro, other than it's due for a technical bounce. Very oversold, but there's nothing fundamentally that would drive the euro higher. We've got the German foreign minister coming out this morning saying that the war in Ukraine, they don't give a shit what the voters think. The politicians are going to continue the war in Ukraine for as long as it takes, until every last German is broke. And so anyway, and that's true of all of the EU zone countries, with the exception of Hungary. Hungary's not playing the game. They're actually talking sense. They're saying, look, there's no way for Europe to survive without Russian natural commodities, natural resources, and we're just not playing. And so anyway, Hungary's not buying into the sanctions, not supporting the war effort, etc. And so if any of the EU countries survive, it will be Hungary, at least at this point. So back to the charts, euro in the weekly time frame. Again, this weekly candle already looking very bearish. Well, already, it's Thursday, so we're almost at the close of this candle. And notice that the body of the candle has dropped below this horizontal support zone. Very long upper wick is bearish, has dropped below the lower median line of this Andrews pitchfork, appears to be finding resistance at that level. MACD in bear mode on a sell signal, energy very low. Euro in the daily time frame, and again, for whatever reason, today was the day. And so the euro made a decisive move lower today. Notice in the MACD histogram, momentum is accelerating to the downside, energy headed lower. Perhaps this is based on comments from the foreign minister that they're going to sacrifice the voters for whatever it is they think they're achieving in Ukraine. So the yen in the monthly time frame, again, notice that this month's candle has opened lower than last month, has dropped below the upper median line of this shift pitchfork. Would guess that it's headed lower. MACD in bear mode on a sell signal, energy very low. In the weekly time frame, notice that the candle has pushed below the prior low, currently sitting on what could be support at the lower median line of this shift pitchfork. But so far, this is a very bearish candlestick with price sitting right at its low. MACD currently on a buy signal, but in bear mode, energy very low. Let's look at the yen in the daily time frame. And again, for whatever reason, today was the day. Decisive drop lower below that prior low and below this horizontal support level. Potentially have support a little bit lower at the lower median line of this shift pitchfork. MACD in bear mode on a sell signal, energy very low. British pound, monthly time frame, again, this month's candle dropping below last month, dropping, well, it's still above the prior low, so has not quite dropped below this prior low. But notice that the support, if it loses the support of this prior low, the next potential support is considerably lower, would be the lower median line of this Andrews pitchfork. MACD in bear mode, energy very low. Weekly time frame in the pound, again, very bearish candle, potential support, and we can even see a little bit of a bounce off the lower median line of this shift pitchfork. We can see how that level has provided support here, and based on this little bit of a bounce, looks like it's providing support again. but a bearish candlestick. MACD in bear mode on a sell signal, and momentum appears to be accelerating to the downside. Energy very low. Daily time frame in the pound, flirting with support at the lower median line of this shift pitchfork. Again, support, support, support. We'll see if it holds as support at this level or at this point, or whether price drops below. MACD in bear mode on sell signal, energy very low. And keep in mind, if we're looking at the UK in particular, they're expecting that the next CPI, the next inflation print, is going to come in at 18%. And so they're going to acknowledge 18%. And if they're manipulating their inflation numbers the same way that the BLS here in the States does, that means that their real inflation is even higher than 18%. Let's see, they're expecting October 1st, they're expecting the price of energy to consumers is going to increase by 80%, I believe it is. I'm pretty sure it's 80%. That's on top of, in April, they had a 57% increase in utility bills. And then expectations are that, well, not expectations, already been announced, that utility prices will rise yet again in January. And so there's going to be a whole bunch of cold, Britons this winter. So let's keep rolling. Canadian dollar, the loonie. This is in the monthly time frame. Again, another candle opening lower this month than last month's close. Still sitting on support, potential support at the lower boundary of this sideways trading range. Actually, it's got a downward tilt to it. But anyway, at the lower side of this trading range, potential support there. MACD is still in bull mode, but on a sell signal and dropping lower, energy about mid-range. Loonie in the weekly time frame, dropping decisively below last week's candle and a bearish candle. We've got an upper wick, and here we're pushing down below that lower boundary of the trading range. MACD is in bear mode, energy mid-range, below mid-range. Let's look at the daily time frame. And again, today was the day for a pretty decisive drop below this horizontal support level based on the prior low. The bodies of these two candles from the prior low, today's candle has dropped below that level. We're getting a little bit of a bounce currently. Looks like the lower median line of this shift pitchfork is acting as support. MACD in bear mode on a sell signal, energy low. And so that we've just looked at those. That was 83% of the basket of currencies that make up the U.S. dollar index, all headed lower. And so with 83% of the basket headed lower, the dollar has no choice but to head higher. It's physically impossible. So the Swedish Krona weekly time frame, wait, looks like we lost there. Monthly time frame, Swedish Krona. Again, another currency where this month's candle is opening below the close of last month, heading lower. MACD in bear mode on a sell signal, energy very low. Potential support at the lower median line of this modified shift pitchfork. Krona in the weekly time frame, bearish candle this week, pushing below the prior low. currently bouncing, a little bit of a bounce based on that lower. You can see there's a little tiny lower wick on this candle. Looks like we might be finding support on the lower median line of this modified shift pitchfork. MACD is in bear mode on a sell signal. Energy is very low. Excuse me. Daily time frame in the Krona. Again, today was the day. Decisive push lower. MACD in bear mode on a sell signal. Momentum accelerating to the downside. Energy is low. Swiss franc monthly time frame dropping below the prior month candle, has dropped below. I guess we could pull this down. You know, we could do that just to be nice. And so potential support level at the lower median line of this shift pitchfork. But dropping lower in the monthly time frame. MACD not fully into bear mode yet, but almost there. And just as a reminder, bear mode in MACD, when both indicator lines are below the zero level, that's bear mode, and it suggests that the primary trend is to the downside. When both indicator lines are above the zero level, that's bull mode, suggests that the primary trend is upwards. So almost fully into bear mode. Momentum accelerating to the downside based on histogram. Energy just below mid-level. Swiss franc in the weekly time frame, again, big bearish bar this week. A little bit of a bounce based on the lower wick. MACD in bear mode, still on a buy signal, but rolling over. You can see the rollover in the histogram. Looks like we're very close to getting a sell signal in this time frame. Energy is about mid-range. Here in the daily time frame, again, another decisive move lower. Excuse me, currently sitting on two levels of potential support. We've got horizontal level from the prior low and the lower median line extension of this modified shift pitchfork. MACD in bear mode on sell signal, energy very low. Chinese yuan. Okay, so that was the last of, that's the 6 currencies that make up the basket of currencies in the US dollar index. They're all headed lower today, at least. They're all headed lower, and actually in the weekly and monthly time frames as well, they're all headed lower. So basically, the dollar at this point has no choice but to head higher because everything else in the basket is heading lower. So unfortunately, that's not good news for either the precious metals or the equity markets. So likely to see lower levels in both of those markets. Going forward, just out of curiosity, I'm keeping an eye on the Chinese yuan. Continues to drop lower, monthly time frame. Weekly time frame, same thing, dropping lower. The ruble, which, you know, again, if there are any potentially strong currencies right now, it's the ruble. And you know, here it is in the weekly time frame. You'd call that a sideways consolidation. We could look at that as a flag pattern, a triangle, you know, a couple of different ways to look at that pattern. But again, as I mentioned yesterday, however you want to think of this pattern, this is a continuation pattern. Basically, this is the flag flying at half-mast, which suggests that we're likely to see the ruble, once it breaks out of this consolidation range, we'll get another leg to the upside and see the ruble strengthen some more. And just in case you're not aware, not keeping track of what's going on in Russia, prices are actually declining. They've got low inflation and prices are actually declining. They've got cheap energy, relatively cheap energy. Russia's got the natural resources, and it really is, in my opinion, the truth. Europe is not going to survive without Russian natural resources. So take that for what it's worth. I'm just a good old boy from Texas. What the heck do I know? That's it for the currency update. Let's look at the dollar one last time. So a little bit of a pullback currently, but again, expectation that the dollar's headed higher. I will talk to you soon, folks.